So I have some more evidence for you today regarding Michelangelo's creation of Adam. It turns out that Michelangelo was a lot more detailed than the neurosurgeons even gave him credit for in his fresco called The Creation of Adam. What you're looking at right here is a Gray's Anatomy image of a sagittal version of the brain. If you notice, it's faced to where it's facing left. One of the things that the neurosurgeons didn't do is they really didn't do a forensic analysis on the brain that Michelangelo painted in his fresco. And because they didn't do a forensic analysis of it, it's all left up to speculation as to whether that's actually what he did or not. But it turns out that Michelangelo was a lot more detailed than we thought. And I'm going to show you a couple of things in this presentation that's pretty much going to nail down some very interesting things that he did. Now, one of the things that you guys are probably used to seeing when you see this image of the brain, and this is from PubMed. We're going to take a look down here, and this is the image that you normally see. Now, the problem with this image is everything is not it's not to scale. What they've done with the brain stems and everything, you can see what they did is they gave it a quick look, and they said, oh, you know, the feet and everything coming out on the right hand side, obviously it must be the brain stem. So without giving Michelangelo the credit that he really deserves in his high detail understanding of human anatomy, they just tried to make it work. And as you can see right there, the cerebellum is skewed right here. It's all stretched. And then the brain stems that they're claiming is the brain stem or the spinal cord is not going directly into the brain like it should. It's off to the side, and they've got this strange gray matter around. But here's the key. Here's what they did, which was the worst part about it all, which we're going to actually go over part of in this video. Everything in the middle is left blank. Apparently, these neurosurgeons that looked at this didn't look at the middle part of the brain at all. So, of course, what that did is it left all this up to speculation. But now, we're going to be able to clearly see in high detail several regions of the brain and what Michelangelo actually did. Now, one of the things that you have probably seen before is you have probably seen, now these are taken from Gray's Anatomy, okay? Now, what I want you to notice here is the area where we have the fornix, okay? I'm going to zoom into the fornix here real quick. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to decrease. In fact, I think what we can actually do would be to just slightly erase that area. That'll probably make it a lot more obvious. Now, if you remember, on top of God's robe, there's this fold that you see right here that stops right on his hip, okay? And what that actually is that is the fornix. So as you can see, that area is the fornix. And you can see that it stops right here just like it does on his robe. Okay, now that is one of the pieces I wanted to show you. So that's one region we have right there, and that kind of centers the brain where it's supposed to be. Now the other part that we want to take a look at is we want to take a look at this side. Now One of the things that the brain surgeons or the neurosurgeons, since they didn't do their forensic analysis, one of the things that we cannot hold against them is the fact that they have always incorrectly flipped the brain horizontally. But we can't expect them to know that the Ancient of Days, which is described in Kabbalah, or mind, or Nous, which is actually what Michelangelo has painted here, or the Christ. The Ancient of Days in Kabbalah is actually specifically stated to be in right profile, because there's no left-hand path. So if you go and read the Book of Concealed Mystery, you will specifically see that this figure is the figure of a face always in right profile, not left profile like the PubMed site presents to us. And that's one of the reasons why they got it wrong, but we can't expect them to know that kind of information. We should expect them, though, to do a little bit more of a forensic analysis on this if they're going to publish something in this PubMed or Gov. So that brings us back to this image here, because this fold that you see right here where it comes back up and it comes down again, well, what that actually is that is the division between the occipital lobe and what we see as the cerebellum. And that's what that is. See, we can see that lines up, but in addition to the we also see the fornix. Now, here's the really cool thing. Most of us are not aware that when we take a look at a brain, we're actually looking at something. It just looks like a bunch of spaghetti all folded all over the place, and it just looks kind of random, but actually it turns out it's not random at all. The folds that you see on a brain, although slightly different from one brain to the next, just like we would expect, they are always generally uniform, and they are the same areas. So the folds are always generally the same. And what that actually does, as you can see here on the diagram on the right, it allows these neurosurgeons and doctors to correctly identify regions of the brain. The two regions of the brain that we're interested in right here is the yellow area, and it's called the cingulate gyrus. And the area that's right next to it, this white area that you see right here, is called the precuneus. Okay, so here's what Michelangelo did. The new evidence basically shows that Michelangelo was actually looking at the folds in the brain, at the folds in the cortex, and he utilized the cingulate gyrus and the precuneus to cover the areas of God's head, his hair, his chest area, his shoulder, his arm, and all the way as it stretches around Eve. And even Eve's head is also covered in the lines of the folds, which is what he actually did. So let me get to the image and show you what he's actually done here. Okay, so right here is our Gray's Anatomy image of a brain, and what I had to do is obviously flip the brain in order to make it match up with what we see in the fresco. But that's all I did, nothing else has been changed. The area that's highlighted in blue are those two regions I'm telling you about. That's the precuneus and also the cingulate gyrus. Now, when we scroll up and take a look, what he's actually done here, and I've left the lines for you so that you can see. You can see that the lines that are actually in the folds of the cortex that cover those areas, he's even done the hair like it, the lines that cover the face, the shoulder, the chest area. And as his arm comes around, when it gets to his elbow here, his elbow is actually bending in the exact same area that we see right here. So this area right here is the elbow. This area that you see right here where my mouse is where Eve's head is. So you can see her head covers that area right there. So what we can actually see is that in many different areas, and also this little guy right here reaching around to this frontal cortex part of the brain right here with his arm. So what he's actually done is he's actually taken the sagittal version of a brain, and he has looked at the various regions of the brain. And as you can clearly see, he's using the cingulate gyrus as God's arm. And I left this area right here without his hand showing, just because I wanted you to see the continuous area of the cingulate gyrus as it moves around. And you can see where his elbow bends in the exact same area, and how this area up here matches where his hair is flowing and everything. So what Michelangelo's actually done, and I think this is now easily, I don't think it can be disputed at all what he's actually doing, especially with all the other evidence involved with this, because now we can see that the area of the fornix matches what we see. The area of God's arm as actually matching the exact same configuration that we see of those two areas. So very interesting, and this is actually Gray's Anatomy. You can find this out on the internet if you're looking for it. There's several different Gray's Anatomy images out there, but he's actually shown us this, and as you can see, the area of the occipital lobe and the cerebellum, how they separate, and there's like kind of a crack in between them. That's exactly where they should be, right here in this. So yeah, he's definitely there should be no question now to any neurosurgeons or anything that this is what he's done. And the real key to knowing that this is flipped the correct way horizontally is the characteristic of what we see in the cingulate gyrus and the precuneus, in addition to the fact that the fornix comes out right here and then stops on top of his robe, just like what we see right here. So anyway, some new evidence I wanted to show you so we can clearly see what he has used in the folds of the brain here, in the folds of the cortex, to represent God's head, his chest, shoulder, arm, elbow area, all the way down, wrapped around the corpus callosum. And then we can even see Eve's head here, this guy, and his arm moving up into the center area from the frontal cortex. So I hope you guys had a great 4th, and I will talk to you soon.